Sonic, the heart of your system.
Hello, Brani here from Kit Guru, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at probably the most beautiful but also the most expensive graphics card that I have ever seen. So back in August of this year I upgraded to an RTX 2080 Ti. I've got it in my PC now and it is the Hall of Fame White Edition graphics card. It is absolutely beautiful. I've enjoyed it the couple of months that I've had it so far, and I'm surely going to have it for many years to come because it's mental. It will run absolutely anything. I absolutely love it. But in that video I also mentioned that Galax are doing a kind of 10th anniversary edition of that card, but it was very limited. I never expected to ever be able to kind of see one in person, let alone actually be able to do an unboxing on one. But here we have it. So I'm not doing another upgrade video. Unfortunately, this is not my graphics card to keep, but I've got it for a very short period of time to unbox it and just take a quick look at it, and I'm so excited. There's no way I was going to turn the opportunity down. So here it is. This graphics card, kind of the original card was expensive. This graphics card is even more expensive, so it costs £300 more, so you're looking at £1,800. So it is quite a limited edition card, but I imagine probably not many people are going to want to spend that much on a graphics card anyway. But if you do, it does exist, and I must say from the photos and things that I've seen, it is an absolutely beautiful looking card. It does have a little bit of kind of a performance increase as well. So Galax have managed to push the boost clock higher a little bit on this card. So it has a boost clock of 1740 megahertz, whereas the original version of the card has a boost clock speed of 1635 megahertz. But because this is a Hall of Fame card, it's built to kind of beat those overclocking world records. So you're probably going to overclock it anyway, but it does come with a slightly higher boost clock speed out of the box. This graphic card also has a built-in water block, so you've got the option of air cooling it like the original, or you've got the option of putting it into a water-cooled system. So I think to make the most out of this card, you're probably going to want to water cool it, and if you're spending £1,800 on a graphics card, you're probably going to have the spare money to set up a custom water cooling loop as well. So I'm going to crack on and get into this box, and we can take a look at what you get with this graphics card. I can tell just from kind of looking at the outside, you seem to get, with this particular version, which comes from Overclockers UK, you've got a couple of free sticks of RAM in there as well, so that does kind of help with the price point a little bit. The RAM that comes with it is worth about £170. It is some really nice RAM. It's kind of white with like the RGB LEDs, so that does make the price maybe seem a little bit better. But apart from that, the box is pretty similar to the graphics card I already unboxed, apart from it's a hell of a lot taller. So I just think this graphics card maybe is going to have a little bit more packaging going on or something, and obviously the extra RAM and stuff that's in there. So let's open the box and see what we get on the inside. Oh, it's like holographic. Wow, isn't that absolutely majestic? It has like a holographic coating with the big Hall of Fame logo. That just looks absolutely fantastic. Oh, it's like a giant shoebox. You could actually kind of store, you could use this really nice box to kind of store stuff in once you've taken the graphics card out of it. This is amazing. This is amazing. The packaging is so nice. I know it's really expensive, but it's super nice. So it's got this layer of kind of like crisp white foam. Oh, oh my God. That is just presented so nicely. I almost don't want to take it out of the box because it looks so nice just nestled in there. So we've got a little setup guide, so easy steps for quick installation, which I imagine is probably going to tell us about the Galax software, and also, yeah, basically how to install a graphics card. So some very simple instructions for kind of installing it in your motherboard, inserting the PCIe connectors, and also how to connect the displays, and then also download the NVIDIA drivers. So just a very quick kind of startup guide in there. Oh, everything is so crisp and shiny and beautiful. So here she is. That is the main event right there. Up the top, we've also got some PCIe extenders. Yes, it comes with PCIe extenders. These are really nice. They're kind of like, they're not braided. They've kind of got like a clear plastic coating and then like a silver wire. They look really, really nice. Wow. I guess they're made to kind of match the silver accents you have on the card and just make it look that little bit more beautiful. Lovely. That's a nice little addition that I wasn't expecting. That's something that doesn't come with the original card. It did have, I think, PCIe to Molex connectors as kind of an additional thing, but it's not something you'd probably use. They were kind of white braided, whereas the ones that come with this card are kind of like silver with a clear coating. We've got the little kind of overclocking display, it looks like. So it looks like that might be kind of an additional thing you have to put onto the graphics card, or maybe it's something that sits separately. I'll take it out in a second. This looks to be... I actually do not know what that is. It's kind of a Hall of Fame metal block with a screw hole in the bottom, and it's got kind of a rubbery coating. I'm honestly not sure what that is. It might have something to do with the holder. So this looks like, with the original, I got kind of a little light stick. So the RGB kind of GPU bracket holder is like an RGB light stick that supports the graphics card. With this graphics card, you get, oh, it's a Cooler Master. It's a Cooler Master part. It's got Cooler Master written on it, and I'm guessing that's like some sort of GPU support bracket. Yeah, universal VGA holder for all size tower chassis. Yeah, so it is basically a little GPU bracket, so you can support it. You've got the square bit at the bottom there, and you've got the little feet to kind of hold it up. That's a nice little addition. So that is a little Cooler Master part in there. We've got those gloves again. So that's the anti-static gloves that came with the original GPU. The non-special one, and then we've also got the RAM in here. It doesn't come in kind of like its own packet, but that is really, really nice. That matches that GPU perfectly. It's the lovely like white and silver RAM, and it's got the kind of strip there that it'll be RGB when that's connected up to your motherboard. So that's a really beautiful addition. I'm really curious as to what this metal thing is. But there is literally a quick start guide, so it doesn't actually explain what that is. If I find out what that is, I will put it up on the screen now. It might be something that I have to find out later and have a bit of a Google just to try work out what it is. But from my knowledge of PCs, I personally have not ever seen anything that looks like that before. I don't know whether it's something to do with the water cooling part. I don't think so, because it just has like a screw hole in it. Maybe it's something that you can like attach onto your case. I'm not entirely sure, but it is very well made. I don't know what it is. You've also got a USB stick. So it comes with a little Hall of Fame USB stick. It doesn't say what size it is. The one that came with the original graphics card, the kind of regular version, was a 16GB one, and it was shaped like the graphics card. This is just kind of a plain silver one. So you do definitely get a few different bits in the box. So I want to take out this little display. So here we go. This is going to be the kind of RGB display. It looks like it's possibly separate on this card. I don't think it is going to be on the actual graphics card. So this comes kind of separately. You've got a cable on there with the little connector to connect it up to the GPU. On the original graphics card, it comes pre-attached. It's just part of kind of the entire cooler, whereas on this GPU it is kind of a separate accessory. And now I'm going to take this graphics card out of the box. So this is a very, very, very nerve-wracking moment, but I reckon it's going to weigh an absolute ton because it's got a water block on it. So it's got so much metal. Ah, here she comes. Wow. That is so heavy. No wonder it comes with a bracket to hold it up. That actually weighs so much. There's so much metal going on because of the amount of cooling involved in this graphics card. So I would say that the cooler is definitely different to the original version. I was wondering whether it was going to be kind of a weird like GPU block with the kind of same cooler strapped onto it, but it does look to be almost like a completely different design. Obviously the actual kind of GPU underneath is the same. It has that same sort of white PCB. I'm pretty sure it is the same size as well. It just has this different back plate which has a different kind of pattern on it. It's got the really kind of nice silver hollow that we saw on the outside of the box. It's all really nicely finished in a nice bright white paint. That's one thing that Hall of Fame really get right, is with the white graphics cards, they are actually white. I have seen a few before that do come up more of a cream colour, but their Hall of Fame range, they do actually seem to get the white perfect, and also the backplate matches the plastic cooler as well, which is quite hard to do. We saw a lot of case manufacturers that do get that wrong. So on the other side, this is where you get the really cool cooler, which is what makes this graphics card stand out from kind of the original version. So you can see that it's got the big kind of G, I think it is a G, yeah, a G in the middle for Galax, and it's got from 2010 to 2019, and then you've got Hall of Fame in the middle, which I guess is kind of like your 2020, so your 10 years of Galax Hall of Fame graphics cards, and this as well will light up RGB, and it looks awesome. I've seen pictures of it, and it just looks great. I will put it in my system, but my PCIe kind of riser cable unfortunately doesn't work, because I found out in a review that I did a little while ago, and also my case that I'm using, it doesn't unfortunately have the option to mount a graphics card vertically, but we will kind of see it. I'll try to get some nice B-roll shots of the RGB, but it is a really stunning graphics card. The kind of water cooling block is buried between the air cooler and the GPU, so as you can see it is optional. So if you wanted to use the air cooler, you could. Me personally, I think if you're someone that's buying this graphics card, you're obviously going to probably be putting it in a custom water cooling loop. For the sake of the video though, and also because this isn't my graphics card and I don't have any kind of water cool PC set up, I am just going to be testing it with the air cooler. But I can sort of compare the air cooler to the original version. Obviously it does come with that slightly higher boost clock speed, but I want to see if maybe I can get a bit of a better overclock out of it as well. It does feel like it has a lot more weight to it, obviously that water cooling block on there, but I'm not sure how efficient the air cooler is going to be. I imagine it probably might be more efficient. I think it is bigger, it looks thicker, but I don't know whether that's just kind of the water cooling block or whether there is kind of more of a radiator on there as well. But it's absolutely stunning. I knew it was going to be because in the pictures, but in person it just looks even better. And it has a really heavy weight to it as well, and it is just a really beautiful card. So I am going to go ahead and get this in my system. I'm going to take my current graphics card out, get this bad boy in there, and then we can take a look at kind of how it looks with all the lights and things lit up, and then I will also kind of test what it does when it comes to overclocking as well. I reckon we can maybe get a little bit more of an overclock out of it than maybe the original card to kind of make that price worthwhile. So let's kind of go to the second half of the video and take a look how this graphics card looks in my system. Well, here she is, that lovely RTX 2080 Ti is all set up in my system. To be honest, I must admit it wasn't completely straightforward when it came to the overclocking process, but I will start off just by talking about how beautiful this card is and kind of a few aesthetic things I've noticed now it's in the system. So with the RGB lighting, you can see that the GeForce RTX logo does light up on the side there, which is a really nice kind of effect. It's a big bright logo and it has kind of a rainbow wave effect. It's the same for underneath, so the big G logo that we saw that kind of counts from 2010 all the way up to 2020, that also has kind of a rainbow RGB effect as well. On top of the backplate, you've also got a big 10 with kind of the Hall of Fame logo in the middle there, and that is RGB lighting as well, and that one can actually be controlled. I couldn't manage to control the other two using the Hall of Fame software. For some reason they didn't seem to change when I tried to change the RGB effects. However, the backplate kind of coloration you can change. A couple of things I've noticed compared to the other card. So you've got the 8-pin connectors here. These are actually situated to the front on this card as opposed to the side like on the other card. So maybe if you wanted to rotate it so it was situated in the case kind of vertically, I think that would look really nice with this particular card, just because the air cooler, the RGB, is obviously made for doing that. It also means that 8-pin connectors are sort of situated a bit better to orientate the card that way as well. With the little kind of screen, you can tell that I have now plugged it in. I've just situated it down the bottom here, but it's actually made to kind of clip onto the little VGA support bracket that came with the graphics card. So that support bracket, you clip the display onto that and it would kind of sit underneath the card there, but just for now I've kind of situated down the bottom here. But if you're someone that wanted to maybe mod your PC, or if you're a PC modder, you could maybe do some sort of thread the cable around and maybe thread it into like the power supply shroud or something. I think that would look quite cool. So it's quite nice in a way that isn't actually attached to the card, and you do have the option as well, if you don't want to, you don't have to use it. When it comes to the kind of dimensions of the card, it is about the same thickness I think as the other one. It is slightly thicker because you have got a different kind of cooler design, but it's not too much of a chunky card. It is still kind of a 2.5 slot card as opposed to like a big 3 slot card, and lengthwise it's pretty much the same as the other card as well, and I think in the system it does just look really awesome. So when it came to the cooling on this card, so obviously I tested the air cooling. It does have the same button on the back there, so you press the button and that's kind of the boost clock button, and it doesn't do anything to the GPU or the memory clock speeds, but it increases the fans up to 100%. So that's obviously better for when you're going to be overclocking the card. You want the fans running really high so you can get the best overclock possible. Not so great for everyday use because that is very loud, but if you're doing benchmarking and things like that, or you're doing really intensive tasks on it, that is the best way to kind of get the most performance out of the graphics card. So when it comes to the overclocking potential of this card, this is actually where I ran into a few issues when it came to my testing, and it's actually no fault of this particular GPU. It's actually to do with the power supply that I have in this system. So with the original RTX 2080 Ti that I had in here, it has a minimum power supply requirement of 650 watts. I've got a 750 watt power supply. With this particular version of the RTX 2080 Ti, the 10th anniversary edition, it requires a minimum of a 750 watt power supply. So as you can tell, I am sort of like right on the borderline. So when I tried to overclock it, there was no room to basically overclock. So obviously what Galax have done is the 10th anniversary edition is actually very different when it comes to kind of the power phases or the PCB. Obviously the 8-pin connectors have moved, but they've also done a lot more kind of underneath that backplate as well. They've not just kind of changed the cooling, they've actually done something fundamentally different with the sort of graphics card itself. So not only does it require more power, it should actually, I'd imagine that it's probably going to overclock better. I just can't test that, unfortunately, because I've only got the graphics card for a day. The maximum power supply I've actually got on hand is 750 watts. So even though that's the minimum requirement that it actually works, I can't get any kind of overclock out of it. So it does have a pretty good kind of default boost clock speed though. So it was 1965 without doing anything to the GPU, which is obviously a very high out of the box speed. And while it was running at that speed, it also I did some benchmarks and things, and the maximum temperature I saw was 56 degrees. So that just shows even when air cooled, that cooler on there is actually really good. That was at the 100% fan speed, but running flat out for a graphics card only reached 56 degrees is really quite good. But obviously I couldn't get any more out of it. I think it has got a lot of potential. Unfortunately today with the power supply that I've got, it just can't do it. So if you are going to be getting this graphics card, you really do not want to get the minimum power supply. So you don't want to get a 750 watt, you want to get something like 1000, just to make sure that you have got enough headroom there, that you do have enough space to overclock this graphics card, because it does need, it says it needs 100 more watts on the box, and obviously it definitely needs it. I think they've definitely done something different, because to be honest, I thought the 10th anniversary edition was just going to be like, oh, it's got a different cooler and a bit of different RGB, but I think Galax have actually made this card quite special, but unfortunately I can't test it, which is a little bit disappointing. But yeah, so yeah, one thing I did find out with my overclocking is that it does have a good high boost clock speed by default. Unfortunately, it completely throttles because the power supply just can't handle it. When I tried to overclock it, the performance halves. I did get a pretty good kind of benchmark score with it just with the default clocks, but obviously it didn't sort of match my RTX 2080, the normal version overclocked. But I think this graphics card has way more potential than I sort of thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be the same as the other one, but I'm pretty sure underneath it is completely different. But yeah, I really, really like it overall. It is obviously very, very expensive, but I think Galax have actually done something a bit different. You're not paying the £300 just for a fancy RGB cooler, and of course you do get a water block as well, and they've definitely improved the cooling. I think it's got kind of like this hybrid cooling system is quite different to anything I've seen before. And yeah, it's a lot of money, but I think it is something a bit special, and they have actually changed something fundamentally different about the graphics card over the previous version. But at the end of the day, it's very hard to justify spending that much on just the one graphics card. But if you are kind of a real enthusiast and you want to get something completely mental and also beautiful as well, then I don't think you can go wrong with this card. I think it's got to be like top of all the graphics cards out there, like RTX 2080 Ti's. It's got to be the king. It's such an awesome card, and I'm so enthusiastic about it because I think it's awesome. Negatives to me is that maybe the stand it comes with isn't very exotic and exciting. It's just kind of like a Cooler Master one out the box. The regular graphics card, you do get kind of the nice little RGB light stick stand, but this one I think is probably made to go more kind of vertically anyway, because it has a nice RGB system. And also maybe the display, I kind of liked the other one where it's attached onto the GPU, but obviously you do have a bit more options. But in general, it doesn't really have any negatives, I guess. It's got a really good amount of connectivity on the back, as you would expect. It looks awesome. It's got like lots of little details around it, all the little Hall of Fame graphics and logos and things, and obviously it's going to be quite limited as well. I don't think it is like limited edition as in you get like a 1 out of 200 or whatever, but there's definitely not very many around. Overclockers, I'm pretty sure, is the only place I've seen it stocked in the UK, and this is where this one's come from, and they've only got very, very limited stock of it. I'm not sure how many people are going to buy one, but the ones that are available, I don't think there's going to be many of them. But yeah, it was really nice to see this card in the flesh. I'm very excited. I'm really sorry that I couldn't kind of test it to its full potential, but unfortunately I have only got it for one day, and I just don't have any more power supplies on hand to kind of test out. But overall I'm very impressed, and it looks like Galax have actually done something fundamentally different with this graphics card over just kind of the normal version, which I think in a way helps to justify that high price tag. If you like this video from KitGuru, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from KitGuru, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I would love to hear what you think of this graphics card. Do you think it's absolutely mental and overpriced, or do you really, really want one? If you're into white PC components, I'm sure this is like going to be top of your Christmas list this year. You'll be like begging your family members, but it's so expensive. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If other ways you can support KitGuru as well, we also have a Patreon. We also have a Discord you can join, and we also have a merchandise store as well where you can pick up one of our lovely t-shirts.